everybody. Welcome to episode something or other of my podcast. It is Sunday, the 2nd of January, so Happy New Year. I hope 2022 brings less COVID for all of us. One of my New Year things I like to do is have a good clear through the house so that you sweep out the old year and can start fresh with everything nice and clean and tidy. So I've been through most of the downstairs, well, pretty much all of the downstairs, apart from the cupboard under the stairs. That's a job I've saved for another day. And as part of that, I make sure I tidy through my stash. Normally I do that once a year, but it's been 3 or 4 years since I've done it. And I thought I would make this first official podcast of 2022 a kind of a let's have a look at where I am with my crafting things. And I will show you bits and pieces that I've got, some of the tidying I've been doing, and share some of the plans I'm going to make for 2022. I don't go too crazy with plans because no plan survives contact with the enemy. But it's nice to have a couple of ideas, things to grab and go. I've been taking part in Angela of Yarn and Yarn's 12 cast-ons of Christmas. I will probably just show you those whips as and when I work on them in the next episode. So there'll be lots of nice new content, which will be good. So let's start with this room, which is the back room in my house. As you can see, this is the Cartref shop stash. And behind me is my big Kallax unit. I had a really good clear out of that yesterday, so I'll show you what I've got in there now. So, first of all, excuse the decor. We had the house rewired several years ago, and this is one of the rooms that needs decorating, but we haven't quite got round to it yet. So this pile is all Cartref yarn stock. I really wish I had space for plastic boxes or racks or something, because although it's sorted by weight, obviously, and by colour, if someone places an order, it's inevitably in a bag at the bottom and the back. So, you know, but we're getting there. And then we have my Kallax unit. I keep our Cartref yarn sign out. I just like it. It reminds me that I have a yarn business. And under that tea towel is my printer. I've got an Ashford skeiner at the top with a couple of clamps. I've got my tensioned Ashford lazy cape for when I'm plying up yarn. And I've got my Knit Pro umbrella swift that I bought from Ange of Yarn and Yarns. And then at the back here, under another tea towel, is my Toyota overlocker. I don't use that terribly often because it scares the bejesus out of me. So I've had everything out of every cubby. Oh, here's Jim the dog. Hey, buddy. He likes to be where I am. I'll take you out soon. Shop stock, tape measures and things, boxes of little labels for mini skeins, printing paper, ball band paper and sellotape. Then in this cubbyhole we've got enamel pins, both Knit Tea Retreat and Cartref ones, the bag of prizes and giveaways that I keep stuff for, and some little drawstring bags. Now this box is kind of extra knitting stuff. So here I've got all my project bags, a few more tucked down the side, and I've got some cable needles, point protectors, spare tape measures and things like that. A little sheepy tin with the Cocoa Knits needle stoppers in. Those are really handy. A whole plastic tub full of stitch markers all grouped together with drawing pins, and a box of bulb stitch markers as well. This knitting basket is all my works in progress, well, apart from the one that I just showed you on the table and a couple in the front room. So one of these is a secret design project. Anybody remember my Marie Wallen cardigan? That's in there as well. A couple of other things and a few pattern books I need. So I'll show you those as I come to them. This is my packing cubby hole. I've got tissue paper, 2 different sizes of envelopes and some parcel tape. Up here I've got sticky labels and ball bands for Cartref, and little sort of promotional leaflets and business cards and Cartref cards and things like that. In this fabric box I keep some of my pins. I just put them on the front so I can see them all the time. You might recognise this sheepy pin if you watched my Vlogmas episodes. What have I got in here? Oh yeah, I've got my electric eel wheel spinner. I've got a yarn bowl that I don't really need. I've got my sock blockers tucked down the side and spare yarn for my Marie Walling cardigan. It doesn't all fit in the bag at the same time. Oh, and my niddy noddies live in there as well. And then this is kind of knitting notions. So I've got my double points, my cables, that's a pack of Knit Pros, a little stand, pencil pot, more notions, things like that. So that's nice and accessible. And then the last cubby has got my design notes folder in. This is an electric ball winder. We bought that for Cartref, and we wind for the 20 gram mini skeins. We wind 100 gram skein with this to get a nice cake, and then we wind 20 gram minis off that, because with a cake wound I can accurately use my jewellery scales to make sure I give you enough yarn in every mini. And then that is my Knit Pro ball winder. So for my personal yarn I tend to use that, and again I bought that from Ange. So there we have it. It's not terribly pretty, but it is much better organised and everything is clean and dusted. Okay, I'm halfway through my supposed to be annual, haven't done it for years, stash toss, which means I get everything out from everywhere. I lay it all on the table. I pull out anything I don't want anymore, and then I check everything that all my stash is up to date in Ravelry. I like that Ravelry stash function. I find it really useful. I've got a bit lazy about using it the last couple of years though, so I'm expecting to have quite a bit of data entry to do. For anyone that doesn't like to use Ravelry or can't use Ravelry anymore, there's various different alternative options. They take a bit more work to get yourself set up, and one that I've heard of recently is called Airtable. That's all I know about it, so for goodness sake don't ask me any questions, but there are other options, and depending on how you physically store your yarn, keeping some sort of electronic database can be really handy. I store my yarn in great big space bags in big chests. So if I just want to wander through my stash to see what I've got or to find a particular skein, it's not easy for me to access. So I try and keep my Ravelry database up to date with pictures, even if they're a bit rubbish, and then I can just look through there, and it saves me a ton of time as well. And yeah, so I've got all of the 4-ply, it's a tiny bit of lace weight in there, it's mostly 4-ply, laid out on the table. It's kind of amazing and horrifying how much yarn I've got. I will flip you around and show you. Here is the yarn stash. So everything on the table is 4-ply in useful amounts. So down this end here, I've got some sort of mini skein sets and large-ish leftovers, so kind of like 40 grams plus. So let's start with the scrappy end as we're here. I'm sure some of you will recognise some Christmas yarns. I've got bits of leftover Drops Fable. This is the leftovers from my mum's Christmas socks this year. This is a lovely skein of Chimera from River Knits that's going to become fingerless mitts eventually. These skeins here, I've had for years. They were leftovers, effectively, that I bought direct from Jitterbug, who don't dye anymore. This was a gift from Catrin. These I bought. Okay, moving up a layer. So you can see here, I've got a big line of opal and then West Yorkshire spinners. I showed you these on one of the Vlogmas days, so I won't go into too much detail about that. And a couple of skeins of the Birds range, which, again, I bought from Ange. This, oh, I don't know if I'll ever use this. This is the first ever indie dyed yarn I ever bought, ever. And it's from Old Maiden Aunt, and it's called Brass Taps and Oak. And I've got 2 skeins of it. And I love it. It's just the most beautiful colour. And in my head, I'm going to knit a really beautiful shawl. But mostly I just like squeezing it. This was a gift from Crafty Little Rat. Hi, Hannah, if you're watching. This is Mothy and the Squid. This is going to be a pair of socks for which I've got the pattern. I think it's speckled space socks. I just haven't got that started yet. This is a skein of hand dyed by Jeanette. When we had our friends get together a couple of years ago now, she gave me that. Some Corriedale experimental hand dye from Jennie. This is Nerd Girl yarns, and this was a present from Melissa. Again, this is in the almost too precious to use category. 3 gorgeous skeins of light fingering from Woolly Knits. This is something that I bought from Wonderwool. I think it was something like 3 skeins for £15, and each of these is 200 grams. I think that's going to be a Stockbridge cardigan by Isolde Teague, and Ange bought me the pattern for that years ago, and underneath I've got some vintage glass buttons. That's my Rowan purchase. Yeah, Rowan Valley Tweed. 3 colours. Again, I talked about that on my one of my recent Vlogmases. A cardigan quantity of Debbie Bliss Rialto 4-ply. And this was always destined to be a summer shrug, but I don't like Rialto 4-ply. It's lifeless and flat, but very soft, so I might consider destashing that. This is some beautiful vintage Jaeger alpaca 4-ply. It's not quite as bright as that in real life, but again, that's from my great aunt's stash. One of the useful things about laying everything out is you realise what goes together. So I've got 2 skeins of Knit Crate alpaca yarn and another skein of sort of alpaca sock yarn. And those go really nicely together. So with 3 skeins, that might be almost a colourwork jumper. And I've also got, oh, this is deep stash. This is Juno Fibre Arts Alice sock. Again, she doesn't dye anymore, unfortunately, but that's 70% alpaca, silk and cashmere. So I've ended up with 4 skeins of alpaca yarn. The browns, you can see, are slightly different. But that's worth bagging up together. I've got some Drops Alpaca 4-ply leftovers. I made myself some colourwork mittens. A skein of Knit by Numbers that I got when I signed up to be a mill member. 2 skeins of Lewis sock from Rain's Obsessive Stitchery. She's an American dyer. Beautiful yarn. It's got silk in it, which is why it's so shiny. And I won that in the monthly thread. These gorgeous yarns were a gift from, I think, Tarina. Terry, was it you that gave me this? I've kept the card. Yes, it was Terry that gave me this. You see, that's why I always keep the cards. So she sent me several skeins of posh yarn, which I knit up into a jumper, and I've got a skein left over. I've got some Dreaming Colour, and that's another skein of posh yarn. And she also gave me those 2 skeins of Regia. So I keep all of that bagged up together with the card that she sent me. They're all beautiful. I'm super grateful, Terry. Thank you. This is my colourful creativity yarn. So I've got a skein of Treasure Hunt, which is one of the retreat yarns that Caroline dyed. And this is a skein of No Rainbows Without Rain that she kindly gave to me. I would like to say this is how Caroline's yarn is normally presented. I had this skein out of its label and untwisted it so I could enjoy the colours. So that's why it's not looking as tidy as Caroline's normal standards. This needs to be knit up. This was a custom dye that Jenny did for me as a gift. It's called A Moment of Happiness on a Crappy Day. And God knows we could all do with some of that. You see Jim's bottom just down there, always with me. This is the leftovers for the jumper I'm wearing today. It's Tweed Owl in the purple colourway. Jenny doesn't have this anymore. It's got nylon in it and she's moving away from nylon. That is most of a leftover skein of her Fireworks 4-ply. 2 beautiful skeins of Life in the Long Grass. Again, I think I showed these more recently on one of my Vlogmases. These were a gift from Michelle. Hi Michelle, my gorgeous friend. I hope you're doing okay. She's out in America and she sent me these 2 beautiful skeins along with the Labrador project bags. So they need to go together. I've got 2 skeins of Owl About yarn, undyed sparkle merino nylon. And that is for a blanket project I've been knitting for actual years. I'm hoping that will make an appearance this year, so I'll need to skein up some of that. And last, but by no means least, 2 skeins of several of Lithuanian Linen. And these came from Estelle of Midwinter Yarns. And I originally bought these for a design project, which I may or may not still do. I want to knit sort of a Breton stripy t-shirt. So that, God, doesn't that look gorgeous / horrifying? Those are all my full skeins, useful projects, that kind of thing. Oh, one thing I wanted to show is I've got some try to hold it the right way around. Some Holstgarn yarn in various different colours, and it's their super soft. How's that? Let me just fiddle with things. So I've got 6 50-gram balls of that colour, and then 2, 4, 6, and some scraps as well. And those were all a gift of yarn from Ruth, a friend of mine, and that is going to become a Lunenburg pullover. That's on my list of hopefuls for this year. And then I didn't mention, I treated myself to Sweet Georgia Tough Love Sock. Gosh, when we did the London yarn crawl donkeys years ago. Beautiful green colour. So that's everything. Well, apart from this little lot, which is scrap amounts. So I've got leftovers from bits of advent calendars, leftovers from socks I've knit, another little set from Lay Family Yarns. So I will, in terms of cataloguing that, I'll put it all in a bag together and weigh it en masse. That's the best way of doing it. So there we go. So now I need to check that it's all on my Ravelry stash and see what I want to pull out for projects. It's now 2:30 in the afternoon. I've done all of the 4-ply and I've just laid out the DK and Aran and above on the table. I'll take you through a quick trot through that bit of the stash and then I think I should be done. It's taken longer than I thought. Here is the DK and Aran. Now, as you can see, there is a lot less of this size of yarn than of the 4-ply, so hopefully this next but the exercise will be a little quicker. Okay, starting at the top with the DK. Oh, this is nice. This was a gift from the monthly thread again. That's some lovely grey DK weight. Bit of Triskelion yarn. Oh, that's Aran, not DK. That needs to go with the Aran stash. This is a 2020's Cartref Christmas colourway called Rhewi. It's a sort of a nice frosty blue. Ooh, dog photo bomb. Do you want to smell? Yeah, he says it's safe. Here we've got a skein of All About Yarn Bluefaced Leicester DK. I was doing a design in that and Jenny kindly gave me some yarn support. This is the skein of John Arbon Knit by Numbers that when I joined the Mule membership scheme, you get sent a skein of yarn. It's pure Falklands Merino. It's gorgeous yarn. I love the colour varieties you can get. I would never knit a jumper out of it. Pills like mad from what I can see. Now this is about as local as it gets for yarn. So this is Garlic Meadow Small Holding and they are in the Vale of Glamorgan, which is the same county that I live in. And if any of you, again, got was it the 2020 Christmas box? There was some goat milk soap in there. And when I went to meet Natalie to pick it all up, she very kindly gave me a skein of her yarn. That's some reclaimed grey alpaca of unknown origin. Now, these two purples, these two greys, and these bits of yellow are all midwinter yarns, black and blue, which is their Bluefaced Leicester DK. Midwinter used to be based in South Wales, although they're now in Scotland. And this is Welsh yarn sourced from a farmer in the north of Wales. So that's pretty local too. I've got a skein and a bit of leftovers that I was given by the lovely Ruth. This is the Fibre Company Arranmore Donegal Heritage. So it's wool, cashmere and silk. And I've got my eye on that for a project. I'm pulling out project yarn as I go, which I'll talk you through at a later date. A couple of skeins of Blacker Classic British Wool DK. I made some skein deer colourwork mittens out of two different colourways of this. So I think this will also be mittens, but I've only got 100 grams, so I might have to be a bit careful with my yarn quantities. But I do have some Blacker Breeds yarn, which is Llanwenog, which is a Welsh breed of sheep in a cream. And as you can see, these two are very similar, so that might help. I've got 6 balls of green and 2 of this sort of greyish colour, and these are all Rowan Soft Yak DK. And I want to say it's yak and cotton blend. I bought these from Angela's Yarn and Yarn D-Stash. And I'm thinking summer sweater, short sleeved, striped or something like that. Here I've got a sweater quantity of DK, again from Triskelion Yarns, in the colourway Cough Goddess. This is quite a few years old. 300 grams of random cotton. I use this for batching up dye lots of Cartref yarn and knitting dishcloths. Oh, if there was one yarn I could bring back from the dead, it would be Serdar Balmoral DK. This is a discontinued yarn. It's a wool, alpaca and silk blend, comes in 50 gram balls, and I've got a couple of blue, one and a bit of black, and a generous sweater quantity of this purple. And I bought these from the London Knitting and Stitching Show donkeys years ago, like maybe over 10 years ago. And it was from the Black Sheep stand. And if you remember, they used to just pile yarn in its plastic bags in a big pile on the floor, and you could just sort of swim through it. And this used to be a shawl. You can see this has been knitted and frogged again. And the shawl was just a little ruffly for my taste. Now, if any of you remember, probably towards the end of last year, I knitted myself a green cardigan by Petite Knits, and that was a green Balmoral. Really like that. This is a charity shop find that my mum got for me. Again, it's Rowan Pure Life, and they don't do this line anymore, but they did have a range of British sheep breeds. And she found these in a charity shop in Stratford. And this is Jacob, and it's a marl. So yeah, 200 grams of that. So maybe mittens. Ooh, now this is gorgeous. This is, I think, Aran weight in this beautiful navy colour. I've got 8 skeins of this, so cabled jumper quantity if I wanted it. Excuse me. And that I got from Yarndale. Jennie and I went to Yarndale once, had a fabulous time, but we vowed we would never go again because it's so packed. And Laxton's Mill have a stand there. I think they now have a website that sells to the public, but it used to only be trade. But they'd appear at Yarndale once a year, and they have ridiculous bargains, and this is beautiful. I'm pretty sure it's Bluefaced Leicester. So I need to double check my yardage, but there's probably a cable jumper or a cardigan's quantity in there. This Rowan Lemur, again Aran weight, and this is a chain construction yarn, really lovely. I've already knitted a jumper in this. I knitted a Brooklyn tweed jumper, I can't remember the name, but it's now too small for me. This was the leftovers, so I've got these plus a jumper that I could frog for more yarn. Again, really gorgeous yarn, nice and soft. So at some point I'll rip out the jumper that doesn't fit and make myself a cardigan. Old Maiden Aunt BFL Aran, beautiful mid-grey. And felted tweed Aran, 48 grams. I knit a headband. Again, I got this from Ange. And the headband is actually not quite long enough. So again, I need to rip that out and knit a bit more length, then I can wear it. This is beautiful. I can't decide what I'm supposed to knit with this. This is a worsted weight yarn from a friend in America. Let me rearrange the label. Brooks Farm Yarn, Lancaster in Texas. Worsted weight. So it's 420 yards of wool, baby alpaca and silk. And I'm just wondering if that might be enough for a big old cowl or a scarf or something gorgeous. 2 skeins of Knitology yarn. This is a silk blend. 40% merino, 30% silk, 30% alpaca. And again, 2 skeins of that. It's super soft, very beautiful. 3 skeins of Aran weight woolly knit. I picked this up from the Knit Tea Retreat swap table, and I knitted Comrade a pair of fingerless gloves out of this yarn, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Do check out the woollyKnitCrafts.com website. They have brilliant, proper woolly British wool at really cheap prices. 2 skeins of Pia Kalanka. This I bought from Midwinter Yarns at one of my very first Wonderwalls. I'm pretty sure it's a bulky. It's a Finnish yarn. And again, I think I have destined that for mittens or something like that. I've got a random skein of DK acrylic left over from a blanket pattern. And then this is Serdar colour wheel and bonus DK for blanket projects that I'm working on at the moment. And then this little pile are my leftovers, mixture of DK and Aran weight. I should actually, some of these smaller bits might be enough for my new niece that's due in a couple of days actually. So maybe Mum would like those for baby hats or something. So there we have it. It is well worth, if you can face it, going through your stash and just remembering what you have and giving it a squish and seeing what you fall in love with. I still love all of this. There's nothing at all here that I want to pull out and get rid of. Absolutely gorgeous. Here it is, all packed away again. So this big space bag is all of my DK and Aran weight, and as you can see, it's anything that's multiple skeins is all bagged up together. I've got a little bit of loose stuff and a bag of leftovers in there. This is one of 2 bags of 4-ply, and again you can see bags within bags where I've put things together. And I've got a bag of mini skeins, some single skeins, things like that. I've separated out my commercial sock yarn for the first time, so this is a small space bag. It's my opal, my West Yorkshire spinners, that kind of thing. Here is another bag of 4-ply, so this is mostly single skeins. Got some Advent minis down there. I've got a sweater's quantity of that woolly knits in here. That's all bagged up, ready to go. And tucked, I've got pretty much a whole laundry basket's worth of things I'm not going to use that will either be sold or passed on to my mum. And then on this chair over here, guarded by my stash guardian, Jim the dog. See, he's keeping my yarn safe for me. This is a pile of stuff I want to work on this year. I've got the odd jumper quantity, I've got some single skeins, 1 or 2 things I don't have particular projects in mind for. So this is a mix of weights, and I'll keep all this out in a separate cubby and try and knit my way through it this year. What have you got, Jim? What have you got? You got your ratty rope ball. Can I have it? Can I have it? Oh, no, it's yours. He's got a happy bum. So there you have it. Obviously I do have a fibre stash, but as I think I mentioned at the start of this video, I kind of went through all of that January of last year, January 2021, for the Fluff to Stuff spin along, which I failed at miserably. So there might be 1 or 2 braids that aren't in there, but it's pretty much good, so I don't fancy hauling that out. It has taken me, well, it's 3:30 now. I started at about 11 and admittedly I had a break for lunch, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I really enjoyed pulling everything out, making some plans, seeing what I've got, making sure everything's up to date, and I'll see if I remember to do a review at the end of this year, and you can all hold me to account for my plans. Okay, thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you soon.